Hi and welcome back to my channel. My name is Erica. Today I'm going to show you how to starch your fabric using this Sta-Flo liquid fabric starch. Now in the last video I showed you how to starch your fabric using Mary Ellen's Best Press, and to be fair, that is usually my preferred method, mainly because it's fast and easy. This is also a great method, but it does take a little bit of planning and time. For this video, I am going to be using this Sta-Flo brand. This was recommended to me by a friend, so I haven't tried other brands out there, but I do have a whole blog post. I will link that below. It has different kinds of starches on there, and you can even make your own. But today we're going to be testing out the Sta-Flo. So I just got this jug from my local Walmart. I like to do a mix of about 60-40, so 60% water, 40% Sta-Flo. It's not like a super science. I just kind of eyeball it. I'll show you how we do that in just a minute, but I thought it would be worth it to try it out, show you guys how to starch your fabric using this if you prefer to work with stiffer fabric when you're quilting. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I apologize for the video quality. My daughter was shooting it on our iPhone, so it's not great, but I'll show you here how I do it. It's super easy. And then I will link all the products that I'm using in today's video below so you can check those out as well, and they'll be added to my Amazon storefront. You can measure this out if you want. I don't measure mine, so I might not be a great example here, but what I'm doing is taking the entire bottle of Sta-Flo. This is a ½ gallon bottle, and I'm going to pour that into my plastic bin, and then I'm going to take that same bottle and fill it up with water, and I'm just using cold water here, and then I'm going to pour that in as well. I also add about another quarter of a jug of water into that mixture. So in my mind, that's about 60-40, but like I said, I'm not super precise with this. I'm gonna just mix that around really well, and then we can start starching our fabric. And some people have suggested that it's better to starch your lighter fabrics first and then move up towards your darker fabrics, because the darker fabrics can sometimes bleed into your liquid mixture. I have not found that to be the case, but I also typically use nice high quality quilting cotton. I did have some fabric bleed on me one time. It was from a large box store. I'm not going to say what it is. I can link the tutorial for you right here on how to get rid of fabric bleed, because it was a red and white quilt and the red bled all over my white fabric, which was very unfortunate. I had worked really hard on that quilt, and for the most part I was able to get that out, but I do recommend using high quality cotton fabric for your quilting projects. If you're going to go to all that work, you don't want your fabrics bleeding all over each other. I also have a video tutorial on how to wash your quilts when you're done so that you don't have that happen as well. So you might want to check that out. But for this process, depending on what kind of fabric you're using, you may want to do your lighter fabrics and then move into your darker fabrics. So all you really do is you're just going to take your fat quarter or piece of fabric and you're just going to completely submerge it in your basin of starch. You're going to swirl it around in there, get it all nice and wet, and then I just wring it out because I want to save as much of that starch for my next piece of fabric as I can. I just wring it out really well, and then I just lay it over this clothes drying rack. I got this off of Amazon. I will make sure to link mine below. And I'm just going to continue repeating that until I have soaked all of my fat quarters from this fat quarter bundle. If you're curious, I'm using a Sweet Liberty fat quarter bundle by Brenda Riddle. I'm really excited about this one. It is about to become a new patriotic quilt, so stay tuned for that pattern coming soon. So as you can see, I'm just going to continue doing that. I line all of those pieces up on my drying rack. This drying rack holds quite a few pieces of fabric, and if I have to, I will double them up. Now, I did double up like colors onto like colors just in case I didn't want to put like a red on top of a white and have it accidentally, you know, share colors. Like I said, I didn't really have that issue, but when I am lining them up, that is how I do it. And then my larger pieces, I will just drape over the entire thing so that it's, you know, got as much space as it can. And then all you're going to want to do is just let that sit overnight. I do put a little fan on there just to kind of help speed things up, and then I simply go to bed, and then in the morning when I wake up, my fabric is all nice and dry and ready to be pressed. So as you can see here, as I'm pulling it off of the rack, it's pretty stiff. It almost will stand up on its own, which is great. Now it is a little bit crinkly because it's been hanging not perfectly. I do try and make sure that when I hang it, I hang them nice and flat, but they do just get kind of crinkly while they're drying. So the next step is just to press them, and I just get a nice hot iron. I do add steam to my iron for this step, and then I also have a little spray bottle of water if I need it. So I'll just spritz some water on there and then just press all of those pieces. And I do just press them all right on top of each other. So I lay one down, spritz it, press it, lay the next one down, spritz it, and press it, and just keep going until all of my fabric is pressed. I've heard some talk about bugs getting into your fabric because they're attracted to the corn in the starch. I guess I live in Colorado. I have not had an issue with any bugs getting into my fabric. I also tend to use my fabric up pretty fast, but I do have pieces that have been thrown in my scrap bin that are starched, and so far they're good. I also keep my sewing room pretty clean, and I do move it around a lot, so I'm constantly messing around with my fabric and rearranging. So I haven't had any issues with that, but if you're living in a high humidity climate, that may be a factor for you to consider. Now for the larger pieces, I don't like to have those creases back in them, and so I actually roll them up. So you'll see me here doing my background fabric and my binding fabric, and I'm just going to spray it, press it, and then just roll it up and scoot it up to the next section, and just press and roll, and that way when I'm done I have just kind of a nice long roll, and I don't have any creases that are going to be getting back into that fabric. If you fold it up and put it in your stash because you're not ready to use it, that's okay, but you will have some of those creases, and you just need to again spritz them with water and press them out, and they should press out beautifully. And here is where we ended up. We've got really nicely pressed fat quarter bundle, and we're ready to start cutting. And then as you saw for those larger pieces, I actually just roll these up as I go so I don't put any more creases in them. And I will potentially fold these up as I'm using them, so it's not a big deal. You can always just iron it out. And then I did want to mention, if you do have a really tough crinkle or crease that you can't get out, you can actually put a little extra best press on this even after you've starched it, just to get those out. I didn't find that I had to do that at all. Just a little spritz of water and a hot steamy iron was perfect for getting these pieces all nice and pressed. And then now when sewing with this, it's going to feel a little bit more like you're sewing with paper rather than fabric. I mean, it's pretty stiff feeling, so that's just something that you either have a preference you enjoy or you don't enjoy. The main reason for doing this, like I said, is just to keep your blocks a little bit more accurate. You won't have your fabric stretching and moving on you as you're piecing your blocks. Now, like I mentioned in the video, do I starch my fabric? Do I not starch my fabric? That's kind of the big question, and honestly, I think it's really a matter of personal preference. I typically use my Mary Ellen's Best Press because I'm usually pulling fabrics and mixing and matching, and I don't plan ahead a whole lot. So in that instance, I will use Best Press for my fabrics because I can just find a piece from my scraps, spray it really quick, press it, and it's ready to use. The Sta-Flo is really something that I reserve when I'm doing like a full quilt project, and I will starch an entire fat quarter bundle plus the binding plus the backing and everything, and I'll just do all that in advance. That way when I'm cutting out all those pieces for that quilt, those are all ready to go. But that said, it's kind of hard to then pull in something else. Say you want to add something else into that quilt project, you're going to have to starch that fabric as well. Now, I think rule of thumb is that whatever you do to the front of your quilt, you'll want to do to the back of your quilt. So if you're starching all of the fabric for the front, you are going to want to starch your backing, mainly because it will shrink your fabric just slightly. And if you don't starch the backing and shrink that as well, when your quilt washes, it might get a little bit wonky on you. Now, I haven't noticed a huge deal with this because truth be told, I'm usually pretty lazy and sometimes I don't starch my backing. You're welcome to experiment and do whatever you like, but I think if you're going to be like a by the rule quilter, whatever you do to the front of your quilt, you're also going to want to do to the back of your quilt. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you have any more questions that I did not answer during the demo, make sure to leave those in the comments below and I will get back to you there. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I hope you found it helpful. And if you did, please make sure to thumbs up and subscribe. You can also hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any upcoming fun. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you in the next video. But I thought it would be worth it to try it out and show you guys how to starch your fabric using, but I thought it'd be worth a which one's better?